I grew up in my mother's beauty shop in Texas. This fat little girl sitting on the front porch in a glittered up Burger King crown, dreaming of being rich and famous and having a life full of travel and adventure. Well, by 1989, none of that had happened. And it was getting a little desperate because the 80s were turning into the 90s and I could see the writing on the wall. I'd marry some local cowboy named Bucky or Bo who maybe owned a Texaco station, and we'd get a house in Fort Worth or Mesquite and have a couple of kids, and I'd end up working at my mother's beauty shop for the rest of my life. That was the story that was written for me, but I didn't write it, and I didn't want it. I wanted a fairy tale. So I did what any rational, thinking, mature person would do. I sold everything I owned and moved to London on a one-way ticket. I left on New Year's Eve, 1989, and I arrived on New Year's Day of 1990 with $1,111 and a silver cigarette case, 5 nights in a hotel, and no idea what would happen. This is what happened. January 1st, I just wandered the city crying. Trafalgar Square, the Tower of London, the River Thames. I was terrified and alive, and I couldn't believe what I had just done. January 2nd, I walked into the Strasberg Theater Institute right off the street, and I auditioned with a piece from Antigone, where she's terrified and alive, and she can't believe what she's just done. I was accepted, and I gave them 9 of my $1,100. January 3rd, I started classes, and my first scene partner was this wonderful, intense, blue-eyed girl named Abigail. We were best friends on sight, and when I told her what I had just done, she said, "Faye, that's amazing. You've got to come and live with me." So she took me to this flat in Chelsea with a chandelier and a fireplace and a sunken bathtub. And I said, "Abigail, this is gorgeous, but I just gave all my money to Anna Strasberg. I can barely afford food, let alone rent on a place like this." She said, "Food? Rent? Don't be stupid, Faye. My father is Anthony Hopkins." On January 5th, there was a 3x5 card on the audition board at school, and it said, "City Edge Films seeks actors and actresses for a short film about following your dream." When I auditioned for the director on January 8th, he gave me a monologue to read, and it said, "I risked everything to follow my dream. I took a leap, believing a net would appear." I started crying, and I told him everything, all about Texas and the beauty shop and everything that had happened to me in the last 8 days. And he said, "My God, that's an amazing story." He said, "Why don't we tell your story? Let's make a film about you." And in May, we started filming in Paris, under the Eiffel Tower. And I was trying really hard not to fall in love with the director, but it was Paris, and it was springtime, and he was the director. We drove the winding roads of Nice, and he took me to Cannes for the film festival, where he filmed me sitting on the red carpet on the steps of the Palais. He said he wanted to juxtapose it with an image of me sitting on the porch of my mother's beauty shop. This was so much more than I had dreamed of. This was more than I had dreamed of asking for. It seemed too good to be true. And that's because it was. Because when we came back into London through Heathrow, I was deported. I had been in the country for 6 months, studying without a student visa and working on the film without a work visa. They put a big black X in my passport and gave me 24 hours to get out of the country. So, one day, I'm living in London with my new best friend in Anthony Hopkins' house, studying with Anna Strasberg, falling in love, and starring in a movie about my life. And the next day, I'm back on the porch of the beauty shop in Texas, except now I'm in Texas with no job, no car, and no money. I sat on that porch for 2 days, broken. And on the third day, the payphone rang. I said, Cassavale Beauty Salon, because I worked there now. And it was the director. He said, Faye, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I said, no, it isn't. It's my fault. I don't know who I thought I was. And he said, well, I know who you are, and I believe everything happens for a reason. I said, what possible reason could there be for this? He said, I know this is sudden, but I'm in love with you. Will you marry me? He said, meet me in New York City at the Chelsea Hotel. So I did. We checked in for the night, and 17 years later, we still haven't checked out of the hotel or of our marriage. And I'm still in love with him. But more importantly, I'm madly in love with my life because I took a leap and Annette appeared. And it wasn't the Annette I thought I wanted. I didn't get rich or famous, but I did get travel and adventure, and I got something so much better. I got a fairy tale. Thank you.